Hi, teachers. In this session of working with newcomer students, I want to focus on getting to know your students. We do this as teachers with all our students in all our classes, but I wanted to be very specific on our newcomer English language learners. And as you know, we have all types of English learners. They don't fit in just to one category, and they're not just a number. They are all unique, and they each have a story. And in our newcomers that you have in your classroom may fall under any of these three as well. Newcomer is our students who are coming from another country and enrolling into a U.S. school 2 years or less. Now, our newcomer students can come in. Well, we all know that all of our students are coming in with assets. They're definitely coming in to learn another language. They're multilingual learners. They're not just an English learner. In fact, that might be changing because we already know they're coming with a language and now they're becoming bilingual or even trilingual. So I want you to think about that when you're learning another language, what's already happening in your mind and translating because it is very important when they're also learning a concept. So let's talk about our newcomers that are in your classroom right now. Again, we have some students who are coming in, newcomers who have been consistent with their academic history, their background. They've gone kinder through whatever secondary level of schooling they may have had. They might be at grade level, and they come in with skills in science, and they come in with math skills and language skills as well. Some of the things that they probably are newcomer well schooled is what we're calling students who are on point with their learning. Those students, the only thing they might be grasping, well, we know for sure they're going to need support in language acquisition, transferring those things that they already knew in their L1 and now translating it and figuring out what that sounds like and how they communicate with you in English. So that's one thing that they're going to be knowing that is happening in their minds in their classroom as they're learning with you. Something they may also need as well as maybe more a historical background. Think about your history classes or the content where you're talking about politics and government. They're coming from another country. They may not have been taught the foundations of our government as we go through here in the US, where we begin very early teaching our students in kinder about community and about government as they go on throughout their time in the US school setting. So you might need to build more background with them, and maybe do mini lessons also in connecting what they do know about government with what they're learning in your class today. Same thing with math. If you're thinking about how they maybe divide or use some kind of a mathematical process, they might have one way of doing it. And you need to be aware of how they are going from A to B, um, so that the end result is still going to give you the same number, but they just might be putting it together differently, processing it differently because that's how they were taught. So get to know your students and see how they're processing and going through a mathematical procedure. Another thing would be about money. What that the what that would look like, or metric system. So you will need to take your time and create mini lessons for those newcomer students as well. Again, they're coming in at level. All these things I just mentioned will benefit all our students, but those are the things that our newcomer students who are on track with their schooling, what they're going to need mostly from you. Now, some of your students are coming in who are SLIFE students, or we call them students who have limited or interrupted formal education. So all these things that we just talked about, they may not have been able to go to school consistently. There was either limited because they maybe had to move from place to place, or they only went certain amount of times during the year because of whatever it be, from how easily it was to get to school, those factors take place, or they may have had to go to work. So some students are going to need more support because they're lacking that in their own language, in their own upbringing. So they are going to need more support in foundational skills. And then we have our students who also may be sitting in your classroom who are coming from another country because they were forced to leave, or they're coming in order to escape from war or persecution, or maybe even a natural disaster. So now these students are going to need all the things I just mentioned, but they're also going to need time. They're going to be needing a little bit more emotional support. Everything that we do, we need to consider like what their state of being is like. Many have also been coming here by themselves, and they're unaccompanied minors, or living with family that they have not seen in years. So there's a lot of experience that they all have. And boy, if they're experiencing these things, they are at a point in their life where you and I will never experience. So they're coming with a lot of adult experiences as well. Um, so we need to consider their state of mind, and we need to also acknowledge that they're coming with assets as well. And these are students who might want to talk through some of their experiences at their own time, depending also what type of activities that you have created for them, and how much trust they feel and safe that they will be able to share um, what they are experiencing. So keep those connections tight, form them as quickly as you can, and be supportive. They're also going to need other things like maybe keeping some financial or medical assistance, anything that you could provide, like phone numbers to places that they can seek for help, for food. All these are other things weighing on them heavily. So just wanted to let you know that our beautiful kids, all our students in our classroom, that these are the things that our students are coming in with, and things that you will need to consider when designing your lessons. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, we may want to have some fun tasks that we, to help get to know our students, our class openers, our class ideas, like um, fun things. But with those, you have to consider culture as well. And also, on top of culture, how am I really modeling what I want them to do? You may model one way for a class that is only English only students who have been consistent in our schooling and have been in a U.S. school for, you know, the, for a very long time, as opposed to a newcomer students where you're going to need to really do what you think is a simple task. It's going to need more support. So in this slide, I have a video on how to um, do a name tent that we think, oh, anyone, we're all familiar with that. So even the idea of a name tent, what the heck is that? We know that a tent is a structure that looks like a triangle. It's because it looks like a tent that we sleep in, but not our students that are coming in. Newcomer may not know the word or seen a tent. So you're gonna have to model, and that's what I model in the video. If you notice, I have color coding. This would be a slide where I share with my kids what I want them to do, what goes where. But also in something like this, a task like this, where really we want to get to know our kids. So keep it simple and think about, what do you really want to know about them? That would help to get to know their story. Who they are as a teenager, a student there in your classroom. Don't make it difficult. Like I've seen where they may have used two truths and a lie. Well, that's a whole other concept. Like that's hard. Uh, don't do something like that with the kids right now. You can do maybe later when you teach that concept to a language learner. Keep it simple, and that is one way. You definitely want to have your students do something like this. And if you have name tents in all your newcomer classes, maybe they can take it with them to each class. Yeah, instead of keeping it in their own classroom, you can already, if they did this already for their homeroom, have the homeroom teacher makes sure they say, take it and take it to your newcomer class, to your newcomer science, newcomer math, and all you teachers make sure you just say, hey, take out your name tent that you created in your other classroom. I'm looking for the one that I have here. I don't have it. And just say, take it out. We're going to be working with this, and I want it on your desk. Okay. Now, on the next slide, I have something to consider. Maybe you did that already first week and it went well. Here's something else. So, our students, newcomer students, are not always coming at the beginning of the school year and completing in that nice tight on time schedule that we have on our calendar. Now we have students coming in all the time from at any time of the year. So one thing that you should have in place is something, again, you want to get to know them, and thinking about how they are coming into your class for the first time. How can they get to know your students and you quickly? If you already, maybe not the perfect timing for a whole new introduction, a big lesson that you did you did at the beginning of the week. But there are ways for your kids connecting. So I made a digital online photo album or class album, and I have here the directions. And you want to create something where if you do have a student that comes in at an odd time of the year, that you provide them with this. Maybe they'll be sitting down with an instructional aid that helps them open it. And you want them to also share a little bit about themselves, but on a slide. And you have directions here, and they can see your slide, so they get to know a little bit about you as a teacher, who's their teacher. And then on the other slides, they'll see other students in their classroom. This way they'll get to know a little bit about them. Maybe that they come from the same country or even from the same town, or maybe they have the same hobbies that they in common, or foods that they like. When they start to recognize, oh my gosh, I enjoy that place too. This is going to burden that heaviness that they have of not knowing anyone, not having any friends. They can quickly start to get to know the students in their class, and so they can develop friendships and connections. Now, another thing that I want you to consider in regards to those first few days is assessing your newcomers. Now, your students already coming in assessed. Most likely, when they were registering for a class, they took the initial LPAC, so that is getting processed to see what level of language they are at. And then the other thing, that they may have had a screener, maybe they've already had a reading lexile given to them, so they're determining their reading level, and they may have, in some schools, they do a math screener. So here I want you to think about that. If you don't have that already, then you might want to have something ready and prepared in your class. So a math diagnostic. Think about if you're teaching algebra and you want to just give algebraic equations, problems for them to solve. Understandable. Maybe you should add, or you not just maybe, you should add, a few, 3 maybe. But I want you to think about adding other math problems there. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, word problems that are simple, graphs, but thinking about what they'll be able to do, because you're giving them so many opportunities for them to show what they know, instead of just giving them an algebraic or geometry test. They're going to feel like if they didn't get to that type of math level, or they may not feel that they're going to do a good job, and they're going to feel like failures. We don't want any of our students to feel like that. We want to find out what they know, and you want to know if they have those foundational skills. They want to feel successful too. I can do this though. This I was able to do in this diagnostic test that my teacher gave me. So keep it simple. And this is something that does not need to be graded. It should be in your class to support you with determining where is the best place to seat students in a heterogeneous grouping at tables, which is really important. Or you might want to create, some opportunities for small group instruction. Or you might want to, you might notice that, my gosh, they're way ahead. And so again, we're not looking for deficit, we're looking for strengths in this for this test. Something else, if you're looking at another content like science or history, you might want to create some kind of a screener as well with vocabulary using photos. We already know they might be limited with language, but as I shared before, they are not coming most likely with the foundations of historical background that we have here in the US. They didn't study our government. Um, and we don't know how much or science they have had. What type of science is it? Biology, earth. What do they know? So by creating a screener with visuals, with pictures, and you could have them either write about what they know about this. What do you know? What do you wonder? Or matching it with a vocabulary word. Those types of things are going to help. But the visual part is so necessary. And then allowing them to use their L1. So you may want to give them time to translate what they know, or share in their L1, in their home language, what they know. It's pretty important for you to do that, or link the vocabulary words to a translated Google document that you already have set to go. This is really important, and this is a great way for you to know what your students are coming in with these screeners. And lastly, I have a technology diagnostic assessment that you may want to consider. Again, and never assume that our students are coming in with a vast knowledge of tech because they own a cell phone. These smartphones, yes, they provide the internet and ways to share things on social media, but that doesn't mean that they know how to do some tasks that we are asking them in an academic setting. But you could start off with having them sit with you, another, or your instructional aide, and just having them open your Chromebook, start it, or log in, um, type in your name, just many little tasks that are going to be the basic foundational tasks that'll help them to get started in using technology. Later on, you can go into a more skill-based if you'd like. There, I share that in other slides. But yeah, think about what you're going to, if you're having them use technology in your class, then you're going to need to know where they're at. Okay. Well, and finally, I think we are at the last place. Let me go back here. Again, I hope this was helpful, and these are considerations for you in getting to know your students a little bit better. All right.